and she was, oh, there we go. I'll start over. Laurel was born in Honduras and adopted by a family in Ohio. Her mom's from Poland and her dad's from Finland, which is pretty cool. Her parents raised her with a desire to help make the world a better place and appreciate that which makes us different. Laurel became a Rotarian in 2010. She's a former member of the Rotary Club of Strongsville and has been a member of our club since July 2020. She has a bachelor's in communications, an MBA, and has worked in the nonprofit fundraising sector for over 20 years. She's currently the Director of Advancement at Kent State University. Laurel has been married to her husband, Tom, for over 13 years and is a proud parent to 3 Chihuahuas. Prior to COVID, she caught the travel bug and visited Iceland, Finland, Estonia, Jordan, and Norway. Tonight, she'll be sharing with us her trip to Iceland, the land of ice and fire. Thanks, Laurel.
Well, thanks, friends, for allowing me to present about a very special place in the world, Iceland and also Sweden. I decided to add that in at the last moment, but it's my pleasure to take you on this journey. I hope that you've brought your passports because you will get 2 virtual stamps tonight. Iceland, the land of fire and ice, and Sweden. I don't really know what their tagline is, but it's a super fun place to go. So allow me to take you on this journey this evening. I am the Latina Suomalainen, Velkommen and Velkommen. That is welcome in both Swedish and Icelandic. We will take a journey to a part of the Nordic world, Sweden and Iceland. You're feeling all travel bloggy now? So, as Emily mentioned, I am an adoptee. My father was from Finland. His parents actually immigrated just before World War I, and my mother's parents immigrated from Poland prior to World War I as well. I had a desire to see the world because I wanted to know something different than my own backyard. Tonight's itinerary, we will talk about my travel phobias, geography and history of these 2 fine nations, culture, my personal journey, and responsible tourism. Mind over matter. The mind is a very powerful tool and perhaps the most important part of our bodies. A lot of people are surprised to learn that I once had a fear of flying and a fear of travel. The phobia was so significant that I would not get on a plane for 9 years because I was convinced I would die mid-air. I was worried about the germs, the people, the lack of control. What if the plane crashes? What if I throw up from all of that turbulence? And that would be so embarrassing. I really was allowing my phobias to control my life. And while I wanted to see the world, it was too overwhelming for me. So I set my mindset on goals and I pushed myself to start to explore the world. Of course, once my student loans were paid off, it became a little bit easier, but I was determined to see the first place I fell in love with online, which was Iceland, the land of fire and ice. It's called that because it has glaciers as well as volcanoes and a bunch of absolutely incredible forces of nature. I motivated myself to overcome the fear. And I'm so glad I did, because as a result of that, Iceland made me want to see more of the world, not just the Nordic parts. If you have a travel phobia, and I'm not sure if anyone does, but if you have friends that have a significant phobia, fear of flying or leaving their local community, it's helpful to know the facts, the safety of airlines, how many things actually go wrong at airports or during travel. It's a very, very low amount. I tell myself when I get very nervous, I still get nervous when I fly because I don't like the bumps and the turbulence and the germs. But I tell myself this too shall pass. And there's a lot of things that I actually do have the ability of controlling. Fall in love with a destination. When you start to see the world beyond what you're used to, it gets you to just fall head over heels in love with exploring different places, getting to know different people, learning different cultures, and the love becomes stronger than the fear. I listen to some calming music. That which calms me may not calm you. I listen to some funky things that calm me, like some disco music and Abba. And when all else fails, legal drugs, to specify, legal drugs. I take some Dramamine to keep me calm, as well as some chamomile tea. A little geography lesson. These countries that I'm talking about tonight are some of the most northern countries in the world, Iceland and Sweden. Iceland has the world's most northern capital, Reykjavik, located at 64 degrees north. Sweden, of these countries up here, is the most southern capital, and that is at 59 degrees north. And in contrast, Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm located tonight, where I'm broadcasting to you live tonight, is at 41 degrees north. An interesting thing about the geography of Iceland is that it actually occupies two continental plates. This is a photo of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. One side is the Eurasian plate and the other side is the American plate. I'm not sure which one's which, but it's really incredible when you're viewing certain parts of Iceland to know that basically the country is basically split in two continental plates almost on this diagonal. Some of the history lesson of these two countries is that they are interconnected, isolated, and based on power and kingdoms. Little history lesson. Does anybody know who the first European was to find America? I can't tell if anyone's hands are up, so just feel
Steve Erickson, that's my guess.
And that is correct. Leif the Lucky, who is the son of Eric the Red, landed on a part of Canada. A lot of people credit Christopher Columbus for being the first European to find America, but most historians will agree that it's Leif Erikson or Leif the Lucky. Well, both of these countries, prior to the Christian Crusades, followed a folklore religion, a polytheistic religion, Norse mythology. You know, they did believe in the power of Thor, who's the god of weather, thunder, Odin and Freya, who Odin would be the equivalent of what most of us know as Zeus. Vikings, myth or legend. In exploring both countries as well as Norway and Finland, they will say that most people say the Vikings were the ones that were doing the raping and the pillaging, but they said it wasn't necessarily all that. It was, they had some really intricate maritime practices. You can see in the picture that's on the screen. That's what the Viking ships look like, and I am just amazed that they were able to cross an ocean in such a simple ship. They stored their food there. If somebody unfortunately passed away during the voyage, they would store the body there as well until a proper burial could be conducted. Both countries were considered to have fluid kingdoms, predominantly the Danish and the Swedish kingdoms. Iceland perhaps had the most turbulent history. It was previously a port for slaves, and they had to endure more famine, plague, and because of their geography, they had more challenging weather, cold, not that it doesn't get cold in the other countries, but they have a lot of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions as well. Just this past year, I believe it was between January and March, they had about 3,000 earthquakes. Now, most of those were very small, and one of them caused the volcanic eruption that made international news called Fagradalsfjall, and it was an active eruption from March until September. It's no longer active, so if you were planning to see this absolutely beautiful volcanic eruption in a non-hot environment, I'm sorry to tell you, but it's officially labeled as inactive. Sweden is Scandinavian and Iceland is Nordic, and both are considered to be Nordic. Scandinavia refers to Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, but generally not Finland and Iceland. In today's world, both countries are part of the Nordic Council. The Nordic Council consists of Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, as well as the autonomous territories of Greenland, Faroe, and the Åland Islands. I fell in love with the culture of these countries, and they do share some similarities, but they also have some differences. In Iceland, they speak Íslenska, which is a North Germanic language. In Íslenska, Iceland is called Islandi. In Sweden, they speak Svenska, Swedish, what we call Swedish, and this is a North Germanic language. If you ask somebody in Iceland if they can speak Swedish, they generally say no unless they intentionally learned, and vice versa. For an English language, someone who speaks English as their first language, Icelandic is primarily a very, very challenging language to learn. There's generally 5 grades of difficulty in learning the language. Swedish is actually only a grade 2. Spanish and French would be 1, which is pretty easy to learn. Icelandic is 4. And then the 5th most difficult categories of languages are generally the languages that have a different alphabet. But interestingly, in Iceland, you need to learn English as a second language proficiently to graduate. In Sweden, they teach Swedish and English when you're going through your primary and secondary school. But they also they encourage you to learn 1 of 3 other languages by the time you graduate. So most people from Sweden are proficient in 3 languages by the time they graduate from high school. Education, they value education and believe that all people should have access to a college education without any cost to them. Something about culture that is present, I should add on with the Nordic Council, is that the countries are united to serve their own personal interests with the rest of the world. Some of this unity is based on preserving culture, and some of it is based on their interest of climate change. For instance, they're seeing the glaciers melting. It's scientifically proven. For instance, if you go to Iceland, one of the icebergs or glaciers that I saw, called Solhamjökull, is probably 1.5 miles smaller than it used to be in 1985. At the rate that this is melting, they know that it's no longer going to be there in about 13 years. So they're united to navigate the world and protect these personal interests. They value education, college is free for all, and they believe that learning is something that you should do at all points in your life. So they encourage continuous learning after you receive a college degree. One interesting thing about the surnames in Iceland is that they end with dóttir and son, for instance, and that means who your father is and who your mother is. So people who identify as women are named after their father with a dóttir at the end. So my father's name is Irvin, so I'm the daughter of Irvin. My last name would be Irvindóttir. My husband's mother is Patty, so he would be Pattyson. And Iceland also has a board that approves the names of all children born in Iceland. And this started because they wanted to protect children from being named something inappropriate. So it's kind of their own personal safeguard to make sure that children are given respectful names. One thing that I've seen present with all of these countries is collectivism. They do what is best for the community, and they want to ensure that all people are on a level playing field in order to lead to their personal success. It's something that they take a lot of pride in. They believe that opportunity should be something that's equally given to all, and things such as homophobia, racism, sexism are not tolerated there. In Iceland, for instance, if somebody makes a homophobic comment in one of the travel groups, the people will say, if that's the attitude that you have, then please don't come to our country, because we believe that you should love all and that you shouldn't harbor hate in your heart towards other people. And it's something that was really profound and impressive when I visited both places. In 1 second, I have a crying puppy at the door. We have our own exotic animals here. Who needs the polar bears when you have crazy chihuahuas? And the capitals. Now starts the photo fun adventure. The capitals, Stockholm has nearly 1 million people. Reykjavik has around 130,000 people. If I were to compare the two countries within this Nordic world, I would call Sweden the fun, wild, hip sister that everybody wants to go out and party with. And I would refer to Iceland as well as Reykjavik as the more isolated, serious and intense introvert. Both absolutely wonderful, just different. And now for the photo adventure. The capitals. I have to say I'm a bit biased, but Reykjavik is my favorite capital in the world. I just think it's cute and quaint, easy to navigate, and much more quiet than Stockholm. This is a view of Reykjavik Harbor. Cats are divine, and Reykjavik versus Stockholm is the land of dogs. This is an iconic landmark church called Hallgrímskirkja. Kirkja is church in Icelandic. This is a famous pathway leading up to Hallgrímskirkja. They have the rainbow and this painted at all times on the sidewalk to show that places of worship are welcoming to people who are part of the LGBTQ+ community. In contrast, here is Stockholm. I said that when they talk of Swedish design, I think that there must have been a designer that dictated what Stockholm can look like, because around every corner, it just looked like a perfect picture. Some of my favorite adventure here was exploring the Abba Museum. This was a picture of Stockholm at about 3 o'clock, 2:30. I went the last week of November into the first week of December, and it gets light around 9 o'clock in the morning, and the sun's completely set by 3:30. Perhaps some of the best parts of these lands are also their landscapes. Iceland is the land of fire and ice because of the presence of volcanoes and glaciers. This is a geothermal area called Krýsuvík, and there's boiling mud pots. They have to put some protective areas to avoid erosion. It smells like rotten eggs because of the presence of sulfur. And then literally about 5 minutes driving is this beautiful lake called Collectivism. They have a lot of black sand in the area because of the past volcanic eruptions. This is, we went on a tour of the Thorsmörk area. Thorsmörk means Valley of Thor. Mörk is valley and Thor is for the thunder god. This was after level 2 or yellow weather warning. There was some really bad weather, and this is a picture of a glacier. This glacier is one of the smaller glaciers called Gígjajökull. And then probably 15 minutes later, the sun came out, because the sun will always come out, even in the most darkest of times. This is called Fjallaglufur. It's the spot where Justin Bieber filmed a video, and it became, unfortunately, the victim of over-tourism. So they had to close it for a little, but thankfully they reopened it a year before we got there. The Icelandic people were able to enjoy their own land because of all of the restrictions with the pandemic that have loosened up recently. This is one of the more famous waterfalls called Skogafoss. Iceland has over 10,000 waterfalls in a country where you can drive around the perimeter. If you were to continuously drive, it would take 24 hours to drive around the country. And they have 10,000 waterfalls. Some of them are named, some of them are not named. This is a part of Waterfalls Alley. It's about 2.5 miles of continuous waterfalls. If you walk to the top of this, 2.5 miles of waterfalls. I think I kept saying, wow, wow. There's just no words because the beauty of Iceland hits you like Thor's bolts of thunder or lightning. This is a black sand beach called Reynisfjara. It's actually a very deadly beach. You can't walk any closer than the wave line. There's sneaker waves, and sadly, somebody just died here about a month ago. So you have to be very careful and not be too hypnotized by its beauty. And off to Sweden. This was called the River Thor. And I was fortunate enough to see otters playing in this river in the background. It was -6 degrees that morning. And this is, temperatures are in Fahrenheit. This is the Swedish Lapland in Kiruna. And it is much, much colder than Iceland will ever be. This is as light as it gets in the Lapland. The Lapland has less light during the day than Stockholm. This was about 10 o'clock, and the sun will go down and it will be complete darkness when I was there at about 2 o'clock. So you only get about 4 hours of daylight. But if Iceland is otherworldly, Kiruna in the Swedish Lapland is beauty of this world, and it's just breathtaking tranquility. Very cold. I love cold weather, but it was a bit much. I had 4 layers on, plus a jumpsuit, a base layer, a mid layer, an autumn puffer jacket, a winter parka, and then the jumpsuit. It was -1 that day, so a heat wave, and I was cold. It took me about 4 hours to warm up because that was the weather that I was out in. But the best part was seeing my girl, Aurora B, also known as the Green Queen or the Northern Lights, Aurora Borealis. It was -22 degrees Fahrenheit or -28 degrees Celsius. And she put on quite the show for an hour and a half. And it was probably one of the best experiences of my life to just see this, to see how these other places were experiencing these Northern Lights that same night. So people in Norway, Finland, Iceland, even Alaska, we were all looking at the same thing, and you feel this overpowering connection with people in the rest of the world. And then the hiking. This is a famous hike. It was my favorite hike. It's a short hike, only 45 minutes. It's called Nathusagil. You had to walk through at the edges, cross that kind of waterfall looking thing, shimmy up the waterfall on chains, get drenched by this rain right here. My husband turned around when he saw me fall into this probably only a foot deep creek, but it's like 49 degrees and the water's probably the same temperature, and I was just drenched. You can kind of see at the ends that I'm just soaked right there, but it was totally worth it. And then I wanted more, so I went to another waterfall called, this is Nathusagil, this is Glufraby, and it's much bigger, and the wind was kind of pushing me forward. That's why my clothes are kind of puffed out, but it was great. And then this is Reykjavík. This is a geothermal energy around throughout the entire hike. You just see all of this steam. It's a 5-mile hike, and I'm sorry, I'm terrible with converting to kilometers. And then second best cultural experience during my travel was learning about the Sami culture. This is Anate. She is a proud Sami woman who wanted to share her Sami story with us. What is Sami culture? Sami is the only indigenous people of Europe. They live in Sweden, Norway, and Finland. They were forced to convert to Christianity in 1100, and they are still living off the land in a nomadic lifestyle. Here she's showing how they make medicine out of the white willow bark. And some of the sweetest thing that I was really touched by is I'm gluten-free vegan, ethical vegan, and they asked the question of, do you have dietary restrictions? So I just thought, well, I'm planning on bringing my own snack. I don't expect people to have my kind of food there. But they made me gluten-free bonbons. They're these high-fat, chocolatey balls of deliciousness. And she said that she wanted me to feel at home in her home. And they also brought, it's traditional to have reindeer hide keep you warm. And she brought a plastic cover just in case I didn't feel comfortable sitting on the reindeer. And I just thought that that speaks so much of her background. It was -6 that morning, and we spent 3 hours out there. I was cold, but I could have just continued hearing more of her stories. I was just very touched by all of it. Swedish Lapland is the land of ice, perfect winter wonderland. And last but not least, in these special parts of the world, you have the sauna and the spa. Iceland has its geothermal spas. This was the newest one called Sky Lagoon in Kopavegur, which is close to Reykjavik. It's just so relaxing. The water is hot. It's 45 degrees that day on the Atlantic Ocean. And then in contrast, the Swedish Lapland, it was probably about -12 out. And it feels so good to put your feet in cold snow and then enjoy the relaxation of the sauna. This is and then last, the ice bar. This is the original ice hotel. It was actually created in collaboration with Karl Lagerfeld, who wanted to tell the world about the climate change that was happening. This was all the way back in 1989. And again, it was just like there were no words. I just had this dopey smile on my face the whole entire time that I was looking at this, the Ice Hotel bar. They actually are creating a new complex that's twice the size of the Ice Hotel that they have right now. And last but not least, to conclude this presentation, is responsible tourism. So some of my friends are like, you're a germaphobe, you won't let anybody hug you. So what's your deal with seeing 2 countries? And they did have their contrasts with how they managed the pandemic. Iceland is very, very strict with their pandemic restrictions, with mask requirements, distancing, capacity limitations, and now they're starting to get into showing vaccine passports, vaccine cards, regardless of the country you're from. And they encourage all tourists had to download a contact tracing app, and most Icelandic people use it. About 98% of Icelandic people use the app, and all people get tested. They have random testing. So if your number randomly comes up, you go in, you get tested, and they find a lot of asymptomatic cases. Sweden, a little bit different. My guides explained it to me that you can't let yourself become overwhelmed with stress. Their Norwegian and Finnish neighbors are just taking it too seriously, and stress is what's causing their high numbers. They are highly vaccinated. About 80% of Swedes are fully vaccinated. But other than that, no masking, no distancing, no capacity limits. That includes public transportation and domestic travel. You do need to mask when you travel internationally. I had to I got there through Copenhagen and left through Oslo. Those required masks, but the domestic flight from Stockholm to Kiruna, mask was optional. So responsible tourism, rule number 1, love thy neighbor. Be careful not only for yourself, but for the community. I took that very seriously, and during both trips tested at least once. I watched the numbers per capita. When I went to Iceland, they were around 150 cases per 100,000 with a positivity rate below 3%. Sweden, when I booked the trip, was 75 cases per 100,000. When I went there, they were about 120. They're back down now. In contrast, Ohio is between 582 and 538 cases per 100,000. And the county where I live and work is between 600 and 750. I personally believe in safety first because, get back there. Safety first because you need to test negative to get out of the country. And how did I get to go to these places? Freedom because of the vaccination. I know that sometimes the vaccine can be a touchy subject, but your life literally becomes much easier if you have the vaccination. I was joking with Jim before this that there were some complications due to Omicron with coming back into the United States. Some of it was with testing, some of it was with misinformation on the media outlets. With some outlets were reporting, if you're overseas, you're going to be stuck there. And some of them were just saying that you would have to quarantine on the way back, which I did because the CDC suggested international travel, 3 to 5 day quarantine, test at the end of quarantine. I said, I can't handle all of this stress, but to be continued, off to Guatemala in about 13 days. So that is my story, and I hope that you enjoyed getting a brief little overview of 2 very special countries that are part of the Nordic world. They inspired me to want to travel, and as long as I am healthy, able-bodied, and have a great employer like Kent State who gives us a free week at Christmas and at least 4 weeks of vacation time during the year, I'll keep doing it. So thank you for allowing me to share some of my love of travel with you.
That was absolutely wonderful, Laurel. Somebody who would love to be traveling but can't. It's great to do it vicariously through you. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the chance to talk about it.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
How large was the group that you were with?
What group?
How large was the group? Were you on your own or were you with a group?
Iceland, I went with my husband, and Sweden, I was by myself.
And when did you get back from Sweden? Was that just the last couple of weeks here?
Yeah, Sweden, I got back on Saturday. I think that was December 4th.
Well, it sounds, Laurel, like you've managed to understand how to pronounce all these complicated names very well. I was impressed.
Thanks. I think I'm a little bit more used to Icelandic. There's certain letters, double L is kind of pronounced like a clicking noise, but there were some words that as many times as I listened to it on YouTube or Google Translate, I just could not get it. And when I was calling for help for a flat tire, they said, where are you? I said, by Stockholm. I can't say. They're like, what? Iceland puts multiple words together. So Fjallaglufur is Feather River Canyon. So they tend to put 3 to 4 words in one, which is similar to Finnish, but not. I couldn't pick up Swedish for some reason. It didn't sound like German, even though it's North Germanic, and it's absolutely nothing like Icelandic.
How did you get connected with the lady in Sweden?
The one with the Sami tour, Amate.
Yes.
I found her information on the the official tourism site for Visit Swedish Lapland, and called Scandinavian Sami Photo Adventures. And they got really good reviews on TripAdvisor. So I thought this seems pretty legit. So I'm going to go for it. And I'm so glad I did. They also have a connection with the spa I went to, which is called Camp Refund. And they were able to get anybody who did a tour with them, essentially a private spot to the spa, which was nice because of the stress of the pandemic.
Nice. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So you basically have your vaccination card clipped to your passport, and
Yeah.
and that's how you get from place to place.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I have a trip this spring where I'm going to Europe, and I expect that that's going to be part of the passport is the vaccination card.
Yes. Where are you going?
It's a Viking river cruise. It's going to be the Danube River. So I'll be in Germany and Austria.
Oh, that's nice. We were actually supposed to go to Germany. My husband and I were supposed to go to Germany and Austria for our anniversary, but Austria was in full lockdown and you basically couldn't go there as a tourist. But for Germany, you have to take, and this wouldn't apply for the cruise, but Germany has it so that if you're a tourist, you go to the pharmacy first, and then they give you a QR code, and then you can get the green passport.
Oh, all right. That's interesting. So, yeah, I expect there's going to be good controls. I understand that Viking tests their staff regularly, and so we'll be in a pretty well isolated from disease bubble because of that. But we'll be out in the community anyhow, and I don't know how along the way, we're going to be exposed to, people in the streets, and how we're going to experience that travel and be safe. And so that's going to be an adventure in itself.
Yeah, the nice thing with those two countries is that both of them require an N95 mask for the most part. Austria has a vaccination mandate right now for all of the people who reside in Austria. They have to get fully vaccinated by February. And then Germany also had testing. Right now, at least, they have testing to enter certain places. I don't know if it'll still be that way. Hopefully it wouldn't be, because their cases should be down by spring. But I think that they would be pretty safe. It's not zero risk, but it sounds like you're gonna have an incredible trip, and then you can present when you get back.
Well, I appreciate the caution, and I'm about to attend a holiday family party where there's going to be 30 or 40 people gathering together, some with various, risks. And we're all kind of anticipating having a negative COVID test before we attend.
Wow.
To go see our own family here in Ohio. And yeah, we want to be safe. We want to prevent spread, and we don't want to kill our relatives.
Well, that's good that you take so many steps to be responsible.
Speaking of testing, if you remember when we had that survey, the people that would fill out and simply tell whether they were tested or not, there was an anonymous donor. We really don't know who it is. But as a result of that, our club received $1,300 simply because of that. And we're going to use that towards some type of project to help others. So we haven't just made a final decision on that yet, but whoever that donor was, thank you very much. But they do want it. They do want the money put to good use and to help out somebody. So.
Anybody else? To scroll through the 2 pages.
Just a comment. This is Joe. Laurel, that was an outstanding presentation. Thank you.
Oh,
Absolutely
thank you.
awesome. Where are you going to Guatemala?
Antigua and Panajachel.
Nice.
Yeah,
You'll love
I'll
it.
be there for I think I'm getting in super late on Christmas, so just staying in Guatemala City and then splitting the trip between the 2 places.
I was trying to get her hooked up with Howard so she would stop and see headquarters for Cooperative for Education.
She will be driving right in front of our front door. The only challenge is we're closed for the holidays now. In Christmas season starts now, so our office closed on Friday, and they won't be back until January. But now that I know you love to travel and to Guatemala, we need to talk about maybe having you come down next February to help us welcome Rotary then President Jennifer Jones, who's going to be visiting our club's signature project. So we'd love to have a delegation from our club to come down and help welcome her.
Sure.
But thanks. That was an excellent presentation. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations on getting Jennifer Jones down to Guatemala, Joe. That's a great accomplishment.
Yeah, we are honored, and we're super excited about it. So she's coming in February of 2023 for a presidential visit, and she's coming with a team this February to do a preliminary planning visit.
Good for you.
And Howard and I will be receiving her, so she'll be there. It looks like the last week of January.
Oh, that's great.
Well, I'm going to take Laurel's travel karma to heart, and hopefully by February 2023, I'll get myself back on an airplane to Guatemala.
You know, I was really impressed with how they're managing COVID. I go to Reuters for all of my per capita numbers, and when I checked earlier, I think it was like at 16 cases per 100,000. Even though the vaccination vaccination is a little slower. I guess they really take things seriously there. I guess someone else Joe can probably speak more on that.
Yeah, mask usage is mandated universally. So they're used to following those rules and everybody's masked. Also, over half the country is rural and mountainous, so people are just naturally socially distanced.
Laurel, say hello to Mashimon for me while you're there.
Who is that?
Mashimon is a kind of a relic of the past, is a kind of a deity that drinks a lot of rum and smokes cigars. And is a local kind of demigod that you'll run into if you sniff the right incense.
Oh.
You know, our little club has been accomplishing a lot. I wanted Eloisa, we were talking earlier. I share with the whole club what just occurred this last week.
Oh, we have great news. The Mesa project, alongside with the Campestre Club from Chihuahua, Mexico, through our work, has been able to ship medical equipment that will go to rural clinics and hospitals. And all of this started in the involvement, and people's hearts have been touched because as we were doing this project, setting up the logistics and getting the project rolling, we came across a very sad situation of a little girl named Carolina. And this is why this project is so important and so valuable. Little Carolina, at about 2 years old, unfortunately died due to starvation and malnutrition, which is rising in that area amongst the Raramuri, the natives of the northern Sierra Mountain area in the state of Chihuahua in Mexico. And because of that, of course, with Bob's help and other, from his, he started immediately to raise some funds. So money has come together and we have been able to deliver food for them. There's a second trip planned in the coming weeks, probably before the end of the year. And hopefully early next year, we'll be starting a sustainable soil regenerative food production sustainable project with them. So there's more people that are coming together. Many hearts have been touched because we are very impressed to have government officials supporting our project, even though, there was doubt that this could happen, but their hearts were also touched. So this is growing into a wonderful peace project and interconnection and coming together with a specific goal of helping people that live in extreme poverty in that area. So I have so many of you and all of you, of course, and my dear brother Bob, to be so thankful and grateful for all the support and how this began here in our nest in this Rotary environment, and it's grown to include and involve other people and going above and beyond service and the commitment and the help of so many people. And special recognition to the Mesa committee and Scott Selliers at the warehouse for working late hours on last December the 3rd to get the truckload, the shipment to come into Mexico. So it's at the border, it's crossing, everything it's running okay. There were intense days, I won't say that there weren't, but everything was worth it, and it's a beautiful team. And I am very privileged, and I truly mean this, very privileged to be able to serve. With everything going around and the fear and the pandemic and COVID and thinking that you're not going to be able to do something, and in the midst of all of this, to see this project coming through and reaching that part where there's so much need, it's just a wonderful blessing. And it's beautiful that it's happening in this season where we will all be so very happy as we take each morsel of food that we put in our mouths, thinking of those that will also have something to eat this season. So thank you all, and a joyous and grateful and thankful and gracious Christmas to all of you. Thank you, my dear Rotary Club.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Beautiful sentiment.
Bob, would you like to add something? You've been part of this. You've been following this step by step, day by day, call after call.
Eloise is really the one who is at the center of it all, because she has the contacts on both sides of the border, and the experience with Rotary and knowledge of Raramuri culture and introducing anything new or, yeah, it really requires understanding how Native people think and the uniqueness of them. And so she brings so many different aspects to this project to make it succeed. So we're very fortunate, and the Raramuri are very fortunate that Eloisa has accumulated this knowledge and has these loyal followers who will see to it that the equipment is delivered where it belongs. And so now, Eloisa, we have you to thank for putting this together.
Thank you.
Thank you both for sharing. That's wonderful. Well, thanks again, Laurel, too, for speaking tonight. Our next couple of meetings, we have a pretty good lineup already into 2022. January 10th, our member Matt Peabody will be doing a presentation about entrepreneurship. On February 14th, Julie Frey will be talking about the humble beginnings of the family that founded Goodyear and the mansion that they built. March 14th, Sabrina Lopez will be talking about human trafficking. And that meeting will not be recorded. She did not wish to have that out there just for privacy reasons. So if you're interested, please be sure to mark your calendar for March 14th. April 11th, we actually don't have anybody, but
Oh, yeah, we do.
Oh, we
You
do?
Ray.
We have Ray Stewart.
oh, I had him down for May.
Oh, no, for May. That's right. That's right. Sorry. Don't get upset, Ray. It's Ray's in May.
He's coming. So Ray will be speaking on May 9th about pollination gardens. And if anybody is interested in giving a presentation for April, let us know and we will be happy to put you on the calendar. But other than that, that's all we had for tonight. Dee should be back with us next month, and I hope everybody has a very happy holiday season. And Ray, thank you for making sure you're getting tested before your family gathering. It's kind of scary watching Ohio's numbers climb up from out here in California where they're very low. So everybody, please be safe.
Thank you. Merry Christmas,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year's.
Merry Christmas.
Good night, guys.